This video is dedicated to James Humphreys. James, thank you. Eladamri Korvecdal versus Teysa, Opulent Oligarch, Ulalek Fused Atrocity, and the Necrobloom. Well, we've got lands there, only one of which is green, thanks to the double face card, so yeah, Miri's Guile might be able to filter our card draw and get us into stuff, so keep hold of this, I think. Draw into another land. We are playing on turn 1, so bolt down the bolt land into the Miri's Guile. A turn 1 burgeoning for the Necrobloom player. See how many lands he's got in hand. Gets a land during the Ulalek's turn, and another one during Teysa's. Only 4 cards left in hand now. Might see a turn 2 Necrobloom. Anyway, Miri's Guile lets us look at the top 3 and reorganise them for the first time. Obviously we want to be stacking this library with creatures on the top. We'll go Guardian Project, Allosaurus Shepherd and the land, seeing as how we can't play the Shepherd this turn. But I think first we'll get down this Mana Dork, which will eventually start tapping for 4 mana. And they did manage to get a high market into play on our turn as well, so at the end of our turn, the fetch being cracked for a Shadowy Backstreet, which is a Surveil land. Should be seeing the commander, throwing a land into the bin. And there it is, turn 2 Necrobloom. Sylvan Scrying from the 5 colour deck, searches for any land. And they tutor out an Eldrazi Temple. Charcoal Diamond for the Orzhov deck. Okay, seeing Outcaster Trailblazer this time. Don't think we're anywhere near that. We want to get our commander down because we don't have a means of haste at the moment. So Trailblazer, Guardian Project, and we'll draw into the Allosaurus Shepherd. So this turn we can afford our commander and we can play the Shepherd, which will allow us to set ourselves up for tapping down Eladamri next turn. Haywire Might for the Junk deck. And we see the first Eldrazi being cast, a Wastscape Battle Mage. That's been kicked to bounce our commander, so that buys them a turn against us, unfortunately. I was hoping to slam down Wolverine Riders or the Apex Altasaur next turn. And Kambal, that's going to do some work with the Necrobloom in play. So cracking the fetch in response to make a plant token, so that Kambal doesn't get one. And now seeing a Smuggler's Surprise, we could do with a shuffle effect really. Although they're not the worst cards on top. Don't mind drawing into the Guardian Project here, so we'll put that on top. Although I think we're just replaying our commander here. So get down Eladamri again and challenge them to get rid of it. The snake only taps for 1 mana at the moment. I suppose if I'd gone for the Outcast into hand, I could have played that, and then the snake would have tapped for 4, and we could have got down Eladamri as well. That probably would have been a better sequence. Although we might already be in board wipe territory. Looks as though some lands have been dredged by the Necrobloom player over there. There's an Eternal Witness in the bin, I see. And they just put Cross and Verge back into their hand as well, so dredging there, a Cabal Therapy was milled. And a Squandered Resources. Then playing the Cross and Verge straight away makes a plant token for both Necrobloom and Kambal. Skittering Cicada being played at sorcery speed for some reason by the Eldrazi player. And Kambal goes through straight to attacks on his turn, goes down the middle, followed by Teysa, Opulent Oligarch. And there's a land tax as well, should keep them in basics. One opponent lost life to the Kambal, he let that through, so Teysa going to make a clue token at the end of the turn. And that means we're all drained for 1 by the Kambal, cares about any token entering under their control. Alright, so we can cast creatures off the top as well as cheat them into play with Eladamri. Which means we go Smuggler's Surprise, the Trailblazer, and then we can draw into the land this turn. So draw and play the land straight away. Then we can cast the Trailblazer off the top of the library by hard casting it. That adds a mana when it comes in for some reason. So we can use that mana to activate Eladamri. I'll tap down the 2 creatures to the right. Obviously we want to hold up mana for the Dork, which now taps for 4. And it looks like we're going to be allowed to do this, so that resolves, we'll get down the Apex Altasaur here and we'll be able to fight a bunch of stuff. So first thing I want rid of is Kambal. Not worthy with the entry of that. We drew into Smuggler's Surprise with the Outlaw, so that will protect our big creatures. Could give Indestructible now and blow up everything, because the damage markers won't matter, but I think we're best saving it to be reactionary. Then we want the Cicada to go down as well, so that they can't play at instant speed. And then Haywire Might is probably going to get pointed at Guardian Project, so we'll force them to get rid of the Miri's Guile instead. Oh, actually, if they sacrifice it, they won't be able to deal damage and trigger the Altasaur, will they? So, yeah, should have targeted the Necrobloom first. Maybe target a couple of other things before we go after the Haywire Might. Oh well. So missed out on getting rid of Necrobloom there, unfortunately. Dredging a land again means that they filtered a Vampiric Tutor and a Mox Diamond off the top. Playing and cracking a fetch, which is probably what they just dredged. Starting to make zombies over there now. And there we see a Dusk, destroy all creatures with power 3 or greater, so this is why we held up the Smuggler's Surprise, so that we could give Indestructible to our big stuff. We're going to lose our commander here, but like I said, we'll keep the big stuff at least. Now the Eldrazi player going for a Conduit of Ruin, which will make colourless creatures cost 2 less, so setting up for a big Titan here, I imagine. And decides to tutor out the new Kozilek, Broken Reality. Nadia's Nightblade for the Orzhov token deck, who is slowly going to accrue value and be ignored over there, I bet. It's usually what happens with the Opulent Oligarch. Some of the most powerful commanders are the ones that just go under the radar every game. Anyway, cracking a Clue token to draw a card will trigger the Nightblade and make a Spirit with the Teysa. And then 3 opponents lost life this turn thanks to the Nightblade, so 3 Clue tokens into play for Teysa. Alright, there's a Soul of the Harvest there, which we saw previously thanks to our commander being able to look at the top cards, so instead of going for our commander, I think we'll get down Soul of the Harvest. Just want to draw as many cards as possible here. So trigger the Trailblazer and the Guardian Project. Alright, and that gets us into Temur Sabertooth, which is another big powered creature, and a Sakura Tribe Elder. So drop a land, and I think we'll risk a board wipe and just go for the Temur Sabertooth for the sake of drawing more cards here. This triggers Trailblazer, unlike the Steve with its small power. So there we get all 3 card draws. A land, Sylvan Library, and another land. Now I think the Eldrazi player should chump us here and allow us to fight some things, because his board state is the worst, so maybe he should help us deal with the other 2 players. Then again, maybe all 3 of them are looking in our direction. We'll see what happens. Apex Altasaur down the middle, and does decide to just let it through. Krosan Verge cracked again at the end of the turn, and goes after another Surveil land, putting a Drifting Meadow from the top of the library into the bin, but just continuing to do Field of the Dead shenanigans over there. Okay, and there's the board wipe we were expecting, a Deadly Vanity. Choose a creature or planeswalker and destroy the rest. So obviously deciding to keep hold of his commander, and swings that at us for 2 points of commander damage. Ulalek into play for the first time. We'll see what kind of shenanigans that can get up to. Followed by Idol of Oblivion. Jadar, a favourite of mine, coming in for the Orzhov player. Followed by another favourite of mine, the underplayed Teysa, Orzhov Scion. So we'll see how much damage that can do this game. Just another land for us, unfortunately. So we can either get down the Wolf Riders and litter the board with tokens, but then we're another turn behind on activating Eladamri. So we can always do the Riders after Eladamri. I think we get down the commander here and at least we can see what's on the top of our library. We can play summoning sick creatures into it and activate it. A Great Henge is on top. A turn too late, unfortunately, but at least we draw into it. And there's a Sylvan Tutor. Very good one because we can cheat creatures off the top with that. So play a land, and I think we set up with Sylvan Library so that we can look at more cards. And speaking of creature tutors, there's a worldly tutor for the Necrobloom. Instant speed, puts a creature on top. And they've tutored for World Shaper, so we're going to be drawing into that this turn, and this is where that high market is relevant. They'll be able to play World Shaper, sacrifice it, and get all their lands from the graveyard into play tapped. And they have been dredging quite a bit. Okay, Ulalek just passing through the turn, strangely. Maybe has big titans in hand and doesn't have the mana to go with it. Teysa, Opulent Oligarch into play again after the board wipe. Followed by Elenda, the Dusk Rose is a very good one. A Decayed Zombie swings in down the middle. Dies either way, so it might as well swing in. Ulalek blocks it. So they get triggers regardless. Teysa, Orzhov Scion makes a spirit token when the black creature goes down. Elenda gets its first plus counter. Its first of many, I imagine. Jadar makes another zombie. Teysa didn't see anyone lose life, so there'll be no more clue tokens there. Alright, let's see what we can get off the Sylvan Library, if anything. Right, it's just a bunch of mana on the top. So, for the sake of saving life, I'll just put the basic back and keep hold of Heroic Intervention. And I'll just have to hardcast the Wolverine Riders. We will hold up Heroic Intervention as well, I think. Maybe set up a Crater Hoof win here. It's noteworthy everyone says that Eladamri is an elf deck, and I actually don't think it is. We just so happen to be playing a bunch of elves here. But I've gone for good stuff as opposed to elf tribal, because I think it operates better with this commander. I don't think it is much of an elf tribal deck, to be honest. There's better mono green elf commanders. Anyway, that World Shaper is getting cracked at the end of our turn, so they'll gain a life and, more importantly, get a bunch of mana into play. So that's 8 Necrobloom triggers, I think. And the Mortuary Mire comes into play, so they can put a creature on top of their library from the bin. So they are choosing the World Shaper with that. So we know what they're drawing into next turn. Riders makes its first token, does that every upkeep and will gain us a life. And now it's the other side of dusk. Dawn will return all the small creatures from graveyard to hand. So in the bin it's Eternal Witness and Haywire Might are the only creatures they're getting back here. All of the zombies turning in towards us, as I assumed it would. Like I said previously, Teysa is just getting ignored over there. Understandable that our opponent's worried about us because we've got Eladamri in play, but we'll just have to make some blocks here, I think, and see what our life total ends up at. Could keep hold of an elf token for the overrun stuff, but even if we do get down Crater Hoof, I don't think we're taking out more than one player, so we'll just chump block here as well with the token. Yeah, and that gets us down to 15, playing into Elenda's hand, putting more plus counters on it. Alright, Cabal Therapy being cast now. They do know that Kozilek is in the hand thanks to the tutor previously, so I'm guessing that's what they're naming. And yeah, revealing Twins of Discord, the Kozilek and a Bayou. So has them discard the Kozilek. Haywire Might back into play again. And there we see Twins of Discord, which we saw previously in the hand. And they can afford to make a copy of this, meaning that pretty much makes their attacks unblockable. One name's odd, the other name's even. Which probably means in a mono green deck that we can just get one shot out of nowhere. And then, like I keep saying, we've still got the Teysa to worry about as well. During the main phase, Teysa cracks a clue token to draw a card, taking him up to 7. And then the 1/1 flyer goes into the right, so we'll replace the clue token. After that, a Corrupted Conviction that sacrificed the Jadar Decayed token. So the Scion replaces it with a 1/1 Spirit. Elendra gets another plus counter. Then Glimmer Lens, that is a living weapon, so it's going to come in with another token. Have high hopes for that card in my Arna list. Multiple copies of that will keep the hand nice and full. Anyway, it's through to our turn, and yeah, we've got enemies on all 3 sides of our opponent's board, so I think we're going down during this next turn cycle anyway. So let's just try and do something this game. We haven't showed off the Eladamri too much. And after drawing 3 cards with the Sylvan Library, we see a Deranged Hermit on top, which can add to the overrun effect. Again, still don't think it's enough to take opponents out because they've got decent blockers, most of them, but yeah, let's just put 8 life into the Sylvan Library. Like I said, I don't think we're surviving the next turn cycle anyway. So get down at the Mana Crypt. Teysa cracks a clue in response to make a Spirit token. Then we'll hard cast the Deranged Hermit off the top. Haywire Might cracking itself in response to exile our Guardian Project. I don't really care about that. Gain a bit of life from the Riders and make some squirrels. Do not have Concordant Crossroads in the deck, which maybe I should. Throw down Steve as well to maximise the number of creatures we've got. And there's nothing that we're able to tutor for here that'll save us really. We peaked too soon with the Apex Altasaur, I think. So we'll just go after the Hoof. Play a land before activating Eladamri so that we can still hold up Heroic Intervention. And then let's cheat in the Crater Hoof off the top of the library in typical elf fashion. Did say this isn't an elf tribal list, but that's how it's playing out this game apparently. So we've only got 4 creatures we can swing in with here thanks to a lack of haste. Alright, so end up with 4 massive creatures. The Necrobloom player has attacked us for a lot of damage, so they pretty much took us out of the game. Let's repay them in kind. Swing in 3 big creatures over there and 1 down the middle. Can't take out Teysa here unfortunately because there's too much that that player can do in response. Sacrificing a lender makes a load of tokens and then can exile our creatures, and yeah, we got to show off a little bit of Eladamri here at least, but I'll have to play it again I think. So now Necrobloom gets to crack a bunch of fetches to try and save himself with the zombie tokens. Fetched up a Dryad Arbor as well, which is a 1/1 creature to throw in the way. Okay, so taking the Eldrazi player down to 10, the Necrobloom player down to -2, takes him out of the game. Alendra triggers a bunch more times, but that's already a massive problem. So let's see what interesting stuff the Eldrazi player can do here. A Deep Fathom Skulker. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. And it's a May ability, yeah, that's a good one. Triggers on each creature that hits. And we're probably going down to the Eldrazi here. Like I said previously, they can make their stuff unblockable. Made a copy of the Deep Fathom Skulker, and a clue token cracked for Teysa. Makes another 1/1 spirit. So yeah, swinging in the 2 big things at us. One name's odd, one name's even, so no one can block anything. And the commander went into the right. So just for the sake of it, let's crack the Sakura Tribe Elder, see if we can shuffle something decent onto the top of the library. It was just a Soul Ring anyway. So there we see the triggers from the Deep Fathom Skulker. 3 creatures hit and there's 2 of those in place, so a card draw for 6. Refills his hand up to 7, but I dare say Teysa goes off here. So at the end of the turn, using the Orzhov Scion to sacrifice creatures, including the Elender, and including a black and white spirit, which means Teysa replaces the black and white spirit with a white spirit, because it cares about seeing black creatures die. Elender makes a heap of white vampires to sacrifice to the Orzhov Scion, so can pretty much exile our opponent's creatures at will. Maybe has a Moonshaker Cavalry or something like that. Alright, Bastion of Remembrance, that'll do it, so pretty much just sacrifices his entire board if he doesn't want to go wide, and can do a bunch of draining here. Decides to swing in and go wide. And down goes the Eldrazi player, so yeah, that pretty much played out the way that we thought it was going to. I do like an Orzhov tokens list. But yeah, like I said, didn't show off the Eladamri too much, so I'll probably play it again, depending on how well this video does views-wise. If you do want to see more from it, then let me know in the comments. Big thank you to the patrons as ever as well. I'm tribalkai. Thank you for watching.